here's the story. That was a few months ago. Well, actually, it's a year ago. And it took place in the Akron-Toledo area, and there was a fishing competition there. And you had two teammates who were competing, and they were going to win close to $30,000. And they found weights in the fish. So what they do is they weigh the fish at the end of the day, and the most, if you add up all the weight, the pounds, and then that signifies who's going to win. Well, they put weights in the fish, and then they eventually, somebody said, well, there's something up here. Something's not right. And then all of a sudden, they opened up a fish, and they found the weights in there. Next thing you know, these two guys, Chase Kaminsky and Jacob Runyon, were facing charges. And now they're going to jail. Joining us now, the Toledo Blade outdoor editor, Matt Markey, back on the show. Matt, where are you right now?
Dan, we're out in Lake Erie, probably 7 or 8 miles out off of Port Clinton, I'm guessing.
And you're just fishing or chasing down a story?
Walleye fishing today. The story was yesterday.
Okay. All right, recap what happened yesterday.
Yesterday was the sentencing for Jake Runyon and Chase Kaminsky. So in the Cuyahoga County Common Police Court in downtown Cleveland, Judge Stephen Gall listened to the defense. They got to make some statements. Both of the defendants stood up and apologized. There were some statements from the Jason Fisher, who ran the tournaments, the guy that actually busted them, and then statements from the prosecution. The judge made a little bit of a speech about how stealing is wrong. And then his sentence was 10 days in jail and a $2,500 fine. Half of that fine he wants them to donate to a local charity that takes kids fishing. They'll have 18 months of probation after their jail time, and they lose their fishing privileges in Ohio for the next 3 years, and in a reciprocal agreement, they'll lose their fishing privileges in about 47 other states.
Are there new rules being put in place in order to prevent something like this happening again in the future?
Yes, they're a lot more strict with their inspections now in the tournaments. They are using, wand metal detectors in some cases, but yeah, they're policing it a lot better. I think they realized that, the way the judging was done and the check-in and all, there were areas where, cheating could take place.
What was their defense?
They pled stupidity and greed and, they threw themselves, to the mercy of the court and said all the things you should probably say when you're caught red-handed committing a crime, and how much they embarrassed their families and regretted what they did and all. But one point that Jason Fisher, the director of the tournaments, made, and he's a full-time police officer at a suburb in Cleveland, he said FBI statistics show that when someone gets caught stealing, they've usually committed the crime probably 40 times prior to that. He thought that was important because there's a whole lot of evidence that they had been doing this a number of times before they actually got caught.
How did they get caught?
They got caught because, in my opinion, Dan, they got greedy and they got sloppy. They had already won in quotations, a number of tournaments. And when we got to the last one at the end of the year in 22, it was for the season championship, so probably $30,000 on the line. And they turned in fish that, based on their length, should have probably weighed 4 or 4.5 pounds, and then the fish weighed 7. So they used, if you're going to cheat, they used probably more weight than they needed to use in order to win the event. And it was so out of proportion to the length of the fish, I think that's what the tournament director kind of stopped there and asked for a knife to cut one of them open. And they also felt somewhat irregular because the weight in a fish is pretty much distributed uniformly across the length of it, but with all those lead weights in the belly, these fish are going to be very heavy in the center.
Matt, have fun out there fishing, and thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Matt Markey, Toledo Blade outdoor editor.